All right. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Football Chat Show. This week, we're actually joined with a guest. It's my first time doing it on my own, and I'm joined with Jacob Culshaw from WD18 Fans.
Mate, it's a mouthful.
It is. Jacob, how are you doing?
I'm very good, mate. Thank you very much for having me on. Mate, the amount of times I've done stuff with like other Watford fans and like other channels where they've said they can't get WD18 out. It's a nightmare.
I've been saying it all fine all day. And I'm like, shit, come to this and it's gone all wrong.
Mate, thank you so much for having me on, by the way.
Thank you so much for coming on. I'm absolutely buzzing that we managed to get you on. We've got quite a big week this week. Last week we did a favourite XI. So me, my brother, and Jamie, we went through the players that made us fall in love with football, which was a good one because it was a bit of a filler for the Champions League. So we're going to do a couple more of them. We might see if we can rope you into a couple of them.
Sure.
In the coming weeks. But yeah, joining with you today. Big week in football. We missed out on the big news last week of the Newcastle takeover, and then the main reason we've got you on is to talk about Watford-Liverpool. Because as I was telling you before, we don't do too much on these teams. And the other 14, I think you call yourselves, don't you?
That's kind of like, I think over the years it's become obviously like the big six, but then there's kind of a little bit of a difference with the top six because Leicester have broken into that now. So it's like, I think we'll call it the big six. And I like to think my knowledge of the other 14's half decent because look, as a Watford fan, we don't really look at the big six. I mean, it's very unlikely that we'll ever get to that point where we're looking at the big six. So it's very much a focus on like the other teams. So it'll be interesting to see how we do the season, mate. I'm sure we'll get into it in the episode. But
I think what we need to dive straight into early on, I'm going to address it quickly as well. This is the first time we've got video, so I hope it all goes well, and I hope this doesn't end up going too bad. So that's something I'm a little bit shaky on today. But no, we'll dive straight into it. Newcastle takeover. Newcastle have been bought by, now I don't want to get this wrong, it's some PLC, isn't it? And basically it's owned by the Saudi government. And basically Newcastle have been bought by the Saudi government. Newcastle are now the richest team in the world. I think they're worth £320 billion. It's absolutely crazy. Mike Ashley is finally gone. As a Watford fan, let's get your perspective on it. How are you looking at it? Are you happy for Newcastle fans? Are you frustrated that this amount of money has been allowed to go back into a team? Talk me through it.
Do you know what, mate? It's a really difficult one because I can see both sides to this argument. Because on the one hand, look, if I was a Newcastle fan, I would be jumping for joy. Look, they've had 14 years of absolutely no hope of really breaking into the top half. It's just been staying up. And look, Newcastle have been a sleeping giant for how long? Like, particularly during the Premier League era, like both of us have been fans since we were born in 2001. So we've kind of pretty much all of our life, we've seen Newcastle just at mediocrity the whole way and even get relegated to the Championship. So for them to be bought by a ownership group that will take them to the next level over the next 3, potentially 5 years, of course, they've even mentioned it now that they want to win the Premier League at some point. It's a similar impact as I kind of liken it to Manchester City when their owners came in. So on the one hand, I absolutely understand Newcastle fans getting so excited about being outside St James's Park and loving it. But on the other hand, we have to look at and we have to address the likes of the human rights record under that regime, which is disgraceful. And look, there's parts of it which are not acceptable. I don't agree with. So from a football fan point of view, let's put it in Watford shoes. Would I be happy with it? Probably not, because morally I don't agree with it and ethically I don't agree with it. But can I blame Newcastle fans for getting excited at the fact that they have the opportunity to rebuild their club and get them back to really where they should be, which is at least in the top 8 of the Premier League? Then I understand both sides of the argument. I know that's sitting on the fence, but I think I'm very 50-50 with it because I understand the fans' perspective, but I also, from my perspective, don't feel comfortable with that ownership group being part of the Premier League and the way the Premier League have gone about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the whole human rights issue is massive, and it's one of those things that's going under the radar because of how big the kind of statement is. £320 billion is like over 75% of the wealth in the whole of the Premier League, which is just outrageous, isn't it? But I mean, I think one of the biggest things that a lot of fans are kind of going using this human rights issue potentially as like I don't know how to say, but like it's worrying because they have got a lot of money. like so much money now, and it's like, oh my God, what do they do? Because they could quite easily go out and spend 500 million pounds and it doesn't even scratch their bank account. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, okay, now this is an issue in terms of the way football goes, because Newcastle fans are probably some of the fans to be the most frustrated with the Super League, based on, well, what happens if we did break into the top six? If Mike Ashley does leave, if the Saudis had been in charge when the Super League was being talked about, Newcastle they'd be part of it. And this is what I'm saying. In footballing terms, it's like, oh my God, we've got another City story on our hands, and it's like, I don't want that for Newcastle fans. I mean, as much as they love it, and they're just going to get abused for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's a weird way of looking at it, but it's like, I hope they do it properly, is what I've been saying to everyone. I hope that they go about it and they build a project and they don't just throw money at it. The biggest example I can have, and it's because obviously I follow Liverpool so religiously, is our owners are wealthy, and there's no doubt about that. Liverpool have earned a lot of money in the last few years, but we haven't spent it outrageously. The two biggest signings, Van Dijk and Alisson, were because we sold Coutinho. If we didn't sell Coutinho, neither of those players would be playing for Liverpool, and I can almost guarantee you that. Our best player, Mohamed Salah, cost us £35 million. Sadio Mane cost us 30. Roberto Firmino cost us 30 as well. It's like, go out and invest the right way, and it's good. It's good, because what's wrong with a team having money? Do you know what I mean? A team like Newcastle should be spending. Do you kind of see my point?
No, absolutely, mate. It's a different. Well, look, from Liverpool's point of view, it's a different way of doing it. It's very much a policy of like the scouting. There's a lot of investment in the scouting for starters. Like, for example, Mane, Wijnaldum, Robertson. They're three players that have come from teams outside the top six, and Liverpool have nurtured them under a world-class manager in Jurgen Klopp. And now they're three. Well, obviously Wijnaldum's left, but Robertson and Mane have been there for how long? And now are world-class players. And that's the effect that Klopp can have. So it's a different way of looking at it. And I think with the Newcastle ownership, it's really, I just don't, I think if I was a fan of Newcastle, I wouldn't feel comfortable with what that regime stands for and what they have done. But at the same time, I understand the optimism. Do you see what I mean? Because
I totally agree. And I was just playing devil's advocate there, because I do exactly know what you mean. It's like, it's the same with the Qatar World Cup, isn't it? Like, how can we allow a World Cup to be taking place in a country that has such issues with their population and stuff like that? It's the Saudi government is known to not be great. Do you know what I mean? It just, the way that they have that, they earn their money and stuff like that, it's just not good. So it's a strange one. But moving aside from that, let's go to the football terms. As you said, they're looking to win a Premier League in the next couple of years. But how long do you think it's going to take? If we're being really throwing it out there, it's such a wide berth question. It's an awful question to ask, but when do you see Newcastle really, really challenging for the Premier League or the top four?
You know what, mate? I think they'll have, my personal opinion is they'll have a 3-year project to get into the top four, to build up a team. And I think by year 5, they want to be challenging for the league. I think that's probably a realistic aim as well, because look, there's certain clubs at the minute where, let's just take Barcelona, for example. They can get some really high-quality players from Barcelona, i.e. Coutinho, i.e. Clement Longley, who they've been linked with today. They've had a look at Tarkowski. And there's not from Barcelona, by the way, from Burnley, bit of a difference. But look, there's a clear project there that if they can, within 3 years, challenge for the top 4 by the end of it, I think that's success for Newcastle. And obviously it'll be fast-tracked because they have the financial backing. There will be a case of them overpaying for players because, number one, in the market, people know that they have money, and they know, too, that they're looking to buy players. So it's going to take a lot of money. They have a lot of money. I genuinely believe that they'll be looking to get Europe within 3 years, whether that's Europa League or Champions League. But by year 5, I think they'll be wanting to challenge for the league. And I think that's possible, mate, because look at the impact City have under Sheikh Mansour when he came in. You know, the impact that he had meant that they were challenging. They won the league by 2012 to 2013. So
it's crazy.
It can happen really, really quickly. And I think their ownership came in 2008. If I'm correct.
Something like that. There was 2 ownership changes really early in the 2000s, wasn't there? And because I remember I've listened to Mika Richards talking about it a lot, because he was like, we got taken over and then we got bought again, and it was a very weird atmosphere. But yeah, with Newcastle, I was scrambling some players together. I was like, who, like the Robinho signing, everyone's going on about.
Who do you reckon it will be, that Robinho
there's a couple I've got in mind. There's Coutinho, as you mentioned, for sure. I can definitely see that being a target. one that I think is slipping under the radar that they should go ahead, make him captain, and he is the face of the rebuild, is Aaron Ramsey. Go and nick him from Juve, dig him out of that hole, bring him in alongside a Kamara from Marseille, I think he's from. Bring him in, bring them two in. There's your midfield, done. Because Shelvey and Hayden are not bad backups for a team that's potentially challenging for the Europa League, let's be honest. And then Icardi, I've heard him thrown around a lot. Tarkowski, there's all these names. You think there's 5 players. There's 4 players I've named there. Coutinho, Ramsey, Tarkowski, and Icardi. That's going to cost them less than £100 million.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, because Ramsey's running out of contracts very soon. Tarkowski's running out of contracts in the summer, so they either get him on a free or they're buying him cut price in January. Icardi is just out of favour. Poch probably doesn't even know he pays for him. Do you know what I mean? It's one of these ones where it's like there's some easy players they can get in there just to kickstart that project that will get them into Europe. And it's all about the manager, I think. That's where I think they need to really
fascinating.
Focus.
I mean, the Newcastle project is absolutely fascinating. I said to a guy actually recently about I'd love to see a Netflix documentary for this when they come in. I really hope they do bring the cameras behind the scenes so we can see what it's like for a club like Newcastle, not only, but for the richest owners in the world. What is the impact? I really would love to see it.
Who's taking the job?
I mean, there's a few names that have been bandied about. The one for me that stood out was Graham Potter. I think number one, style of play. Number two, he's a perfect manager for a project. At least 3 years, he would nurture the young players through with a combination of experienced heads. The other couple of names I've heard is Ten Hag from Ajax. I also think that would be quite a good option. I've heard Lucien Favre from the former Borussia Dortmund manager. There was Frank Lampard. I think personally, if I was Newcastle, I would stay clear of Lampard. I think that's
I'm the other side of the fence. I think they should go for Lampard.
Oh, no,
I think what he did with Chelsea was the first season, especially, goes under the radar because he was technically in a transfer ban. Yes, they signed Kovacic and Pulisic, but he still didn't have a great squad. Do you know what I mean? Tuchel is an elite manager, and that's why he got the best out of that squad. But most managers would have been in Lampard's situation, I think. They would have struggled.
Do you think Lampard is the right manager to oversee a project, though, there?
Yeah, for sure. Because I think he's seen the 3-year turnaround in so many managers at Chelsea. He saw it under Mourinho a couple of times, didn't he? He saw Mourinho come in with the money, buy the players he wanted, play the style of football he wanted, didn't care what anyone said, and he did it. So I think that he's definitely got the potential to do it. And if they're looking for someone to just stopgap for 2 years, maybe bring in the names, because Potter's not going to bring in the names that Lampard does. Lampard is the man, I think.
Do you know what though, mate? I honestly don't believe the manager's name will make a difference to Newcastle, because as soon as they've got the money, there is regardless of what the caliber of the manager, it could be me managing, mate. There's a pull factor. There's a pull factor. The fact number one, wages, and number two, the signing on fees are going to be enormous.
Yeah,
the deals are going to be huge.
It's one of those things that I always hope that isn't in the deciding factor. Does a player, for example, does a Coutinho go, I'm going to go to Newcastle, sign on this much? Who's my manager? If Graham Potter, and I'm not disrespecting Graham Potter, I think he is one of the best managers in the league. Do you know what I mean? But he is not the name Lampard is. I think Graham Potter, what he's done with Brighton is sensational. And I hope that he actually sees it through with Brighton. And this is why I don't want him to go to Newcastle. Do you know what I mean?
Are we talking about Lampard, the player, or the manager? Because as a manager, let's be honest, he took Derby from 5th to 4th.
Yeah.
Right? And even at Chelsea, I felt, this is nothing against Lampard. I think he will have a really good career. I just think it came at the wrong time for him. I think he's inexperienced. And I think with Graham Potter, what you've seen so far is when he was at Ostersunds, he did an incredible 5-year project there. He then went to Swansea, where I thought he was really good. And then Brighton was so clever to pick up on him.
Brighton are so good
behind the scenes. And what he's doing there, honestly, mate, I went to the Amex to watch Brighton Watford, right? And no word of a lie, they are probably the best team I've seen this season against us.
Apart.
Because they, as you said, they absolutely pulled us apart. It was honestly like watching they look like one of the top teams of the league, and their position in the league reflects that. I genuinely believe he's that good a manager, Potter. That whether he would leave the Brighton project, though, I mean, that is definitely something whether the listeners would see that. Would he leave? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I know it's so difficult, and this is what I'm saying. I think it's Lampard the player I'm talking about because he's definitely not a good manager. Like he's definitely not an elite manager. Like I think he's a good manager because I don't think he can be that good at football and be a bad manager. Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, I just don't think he's set, mate. I just think he needs more experience. Like,
I totally agree. It's just that I'm saying I think potentially for 2-3 years he's definitely the man to get them in to the Champions League because say they did
ooh,
it within.
that's the title sorted, mate.
No, the Europa League, Europe. Why did I say Champions League? I mean Europe. Do you know what I mean? Because he could easily pull them into like he could get a cup run going. Do you know what I mean? Because if they've got the players, it's one of these things. I think that in list of it is probably Potter first because like he is just so good and he's English. He fits the bill so nicely. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I've seen Conte thrown around a lot. I don't know if he's a project manager.
I can't see that.
The old Dortmund manager, as you said, the Favre, I think he would be a good manager to bring in because Dortmund don't work on huge funds and they're always decent. They sell to buy. So it's one of these things. It's very, very difficult to call early on. I just wanted to have a little chat about it. So yeah,
It's fascinating. Honestly, it's absolutely just to say that Graham Potter, when he was at Osterson, he was there for 7 years.
Really?
Like, and his playing career, like this is becoming like Graham Potter propaganda, but his playing career was nowhere near. It was literally nowhere near Lampard's.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That's what I find fascinating. Is I think he worked as a university football coach for the first team.
Yeah,
got all of his coaching badges. Moved over to Sweden in 2011. Went 7-year project with Ostersund's, took them to the Europa League, beat Arsenal, Swansea, Brighton, mate. Honestly, this guy, I genuinely believe it. He'd be brilliant for them.
The thing is, I am totally like on that ship. Do you know what I mean? I totally agree. I just don't know if I don't know if he leaves the Brighton project, and I don't know if the Newcastle are clever and because they need the director of football to go. He's our man, and that's where I'm worried.
Do you know what, mate? That's another really, you make a great point there in terms of the director of football. That will be interesting to see who goes in there because I've seen Ralf Rangnick, the former RB Leipzig / kind of Salzburg director of football, being linked with a move to Newcastle, and that would be a clever move as well. So I think it very much depends on like the sporting director, and then that will mirror the appointment, if you know what I mean. And they'll be influential in that.
Yeah, it's very difficult to say anything. Have you got anything lastly to say on the Newcastle thing before we do move on to the weekend football?
Look, mate, the final thing to say on it is I'm just fascinated to see how it pans out. Genuinely, I love this. I can't wait to see, number one, who the signing is going to be for starters. It's like being on FIFA career mode when you find out takeover. Yeah. Like who's going to buy? Like I'm just fascinated to see who's going to be the manager, who's going to be the players that come in, how the ownership do, how the fans are going to react.
Yeah,
it's a fact. It's going to be amazing to see what happens over the 5 years. But also there are the questions still about the ownership and the regime, which should be rightly scrutinised because, look, ethically and morally, I don't agree with it.
Yeah, the thing is that they can't fling money at it. We know that where they literally can't. FFP will stop them doing that. It's how they spend the money they are allowed to spend because they will spend. Unlike Ashley, which is the big point. They have enough money, and they've always had enough money to challenge. It's just Ashley is so stingy. Do you know what I mean? That's the big change, isn't it? But anyway, let's move on. Bud. Well, let's move on. We've got you here to talk about Watford-Liverpool. Watford, big game, isn't it? Big game. I think it was big anyway because Liverpool coming off the back of 2 draws. Watford, I think you've had a decent start to the season, and obviously the last time we played you in the Premier League didn't go 100% to plan for us. So it's an interesting game, and it's now made bigger by the fact that Ranieri is here. And let's start on him. Mate.
Can I ask you a question? What just from a non-Watford fan perspective, what did you agree with him being sacked or not? Or did you think it was harsh?
I thought it was harsh. 7 points from 7 games, especially for what I think your expectations were at the start of the season and how other teams have performed, I thought was very harsh. I follow what you say on Twitter a lot, and you were kind of saying the performances weren't necessarily mirroring those results. I think you weren't too pleased with the result, the performance just before the international break for sure. And you kind of predicted that he was going to get sacked, didn't you?
Yeah, you know what, mate? Look, Watford have a track record with managers. I think over the last 10 years we've been through about at least 15.
Yeah,
which is quite mad. Look, from my perspective, mate, in terms of just starting on Ranieri, actually starting on Xisco, did I agree with the sacking? Yes. Number 2, was it based on results? No. And I think this is the thing to stress is We got 7 points from 7 games. We sit 15th in the league. We beat Aston Villa on the opening day. Great result. I think we slightly overperformed. You know, when you watch maybe Liverpool sometimes and you think, well, maybe not Liverpool's a bad example, but you watch like a mid-table team, maybe a team that you don't expect. You think, wow, they've really turned up today.
Yeah.
But we set the standard so high that it was above actually our level, which sounds weird, but that's how I kind of saw it. We set the bar really high there. And then we lost to Brighton, we lost to Spurs, lost to Wolves, but particularly the Wolves, Newcastle and Leeds games, I think they were the killers for Xisco because, and particularly the Newcastle game, no word of a lie, mate, they could have been 3 or 4 nil up. It was one of the worst first halves I've ever seen from Watford. And I've been watching Watford for 15 years, right? That was genuinely one of the worst halves I've seen in a long time, and that's no exaggeration. I think what a lot of Watford fans would say, mate, is where the sacking was 100% made on performances. They were nowhere near good enough. And our league position in 15th does not reflect the performances that we saw. And with Xisco, we had a very inexperienced manager in the hot seat. It almost wasn't really fair on him because, look, the guy came in last year, midway through the season, when we needed a positive figure around the place. We were kind of, we had Vladimir Ivic there. The players didn't really respond to him, but we had one of the best teams in the Championship, in my opinion, if not the best team, right? So when Xisco came in, he kind of had to just get everyone on side. Of course, there's the element of tactics. There's all the stuff that goes behind the scenes. I'm not simplifying the job he did, but you would expect the Watford team that he walked into to get promoted regardless, really, if we're being brutally honest about it. Now, there was a decision to be made in the summer. Do you continue with Xisco or do you bring in another manager? I, at the time, thought he should be given a fair crack at the whip. He did get us up in the end, and I think it would have been incredibly harsh to sack him. But in hindsight, it probably was the right thing to move him on because it would have given, i.e. Ranieri, a whole pre-season to embed his ideas and get to know the Watford squad, whereas now he's doing it in a condensed period in the international break. So do you see the dilemma there? Of course, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but look, Xisco, I think it was the right decision to sack him. And when you look at the games we've got coming up, mate, as you said, we've got Liverpool on Saturday, but then it's Everton, Southampton, Arsenal, Man United, Leicester, Chelsea, Man City are our next 8.
That's
mate. Super hard.
Is it not unfair to expect Ranieri to walk into that, though? Because if he conceivably, he could lose all of those games, and then that's a bad appointment, and then he gets sacked because he will. He will get sacked if he loses all those games. Let's be honest.
You know what, mate? I don't think we will lose all the games.
I'm not saying you will.
No. I absolutely understand. I completely understand what you're saying. And a lot of non-Watford fans have said that because they're like, well, if you lose, say, the next 8 games, will you sack him? Now, I don't think we would because of how difficult some of the games are. Yeah. But certainly there'll be scrutiny, mate, on the likes of the Southampton game, which out the next 8 is the most winnable. We have to win that. There's absolutely no doubt about it. We have to beat Southampton. So if you look at the next 4, Liverpool, Everton, Southampton, Arsenal, I really hope we can get 4. A point away at Everton, which would be a really good point because Everton have started the season fantastically well. But Southampton at home is the one we have to be winning. But look, Ranieri came in. I mean, I loved him when he was at Leicester. I thought he was such an infectious personality. He always had a smile on his face. What he did with that team was incredible. Just such a likeable team as well. I think we'll look back on, even now, 5-6 years on, we look back on that team and think the likes of Kante, Vardy, Mahrez, Schmeichel. I mean, the list goes on. So many likeable footballers. And I really hope that, well, number one, he'll demand the respect of the Watford squad, which I think is a really big thing because a lot of the time, well, there have been previous occasions where I think that respect has been lost, maybe. So immediately he demands respect because of his track record. You look at what he's won. He's won the UEFA Cup. He's won a Serie A. He's won he hasn't won a Serie A. He's won a Coppa Italia, Premier League, and a UEFA Cup. I mean, that is ridiculous. And for him to come to Watford, I think he's probably the most coveted manager we've ever had, mate. So I'm incredibly excited to have someone of his quality and calibre at our club. And I know we're not the biggest of clubs. If we look at the Premier League, we're one of the smallest clubs. So for him to come to Watford is a massive sign of intent. And I just really hope they can get off to a good start on Saturday. It's a difficult opening game. I'm not expecting us to win because I know how good Liverpool are. I think they've actually been underplayed this year. And I'd love to hear what you think, mate.
Yeah.
But I just think if we can get off to a decent start against Liverpool, even performance-wise, just the performance would be okay for me, because then we can build on that.
Yeah, that's that. It's really interesting because, as I said, I don't follow it like too closely. As you said, you definitely had the squad to get out of the Championship, and he definitely deserves that, the fair crack of the wick of it, as you said. It would have been a bit odd had he been sacked, but it's one of them ones where, you know, Chelsea are getting criticised a lot for it recently. There's the best example, similar to Watford. They hire and fire. It's a very sustainable model for them. They often win a trophy when their manager's in. But why don't you give your managers short-term contracts? And I know it sounds ludicrous, but why don't you go, Cisco, we brought you in, contract at the end of the season, we'll reassess then. And it's not a reassess 6 weeks before, it's a reassess after the last game of the season. And you go, okay, you got us promoted. What do you think you can do next year? Do you know what I mean? Why don't you do that? And obviously it's slightly off topic, but that's
no. I think it's a great question. I mean, I would say so in terms of the Watford model, as you say, there is obviously a revolving door in terms of the hire and fire policy. Like the Pozzos often sense a trend that's emerging. So, for example, I think if Cisco had stayed on, we would have probably lost the next 8 games. I genuinely believe it was not going the right way. It was only going down in terms of performances. But the model of the Pozzo model rather is that it's not a manager, it's a head coach. So the head coach can change, but the group of players stay the same. Whereas often, take Eddie Howe, for example, at Bournemouth, right? Yeah. If you change the manager at Bournemouth, I guarantee it wouldn't really have a massive impact, because all of those players were Eddie Howe's players. Yeah. That's why they kept Jason Tindall on. So the players that are brought in are not the managers. They're not Ranieris. They're not Cisco's. They're not Kike Flores, Mazzari, Silva. I mean, I can list all the names.
Yeah.
Off. They're from the club and from the sporting director. So that makes the transition really easy. So when people say, oh, there's a revolving door, there is a revolving door. But I would argue, mate, that, and obviously I'm going to back the club here, and I'm not saying we're perfect. There's been decisions that have been made that I don't agree with. But what I would say is, in terms of our club size, I would argue we've had relative success.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that as well.
So it has worked to an extent. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's again me playing devil's advocate and just trying to get just get it out of you, because you did have that stint in the Premier League. You probably overstayed your welcome, because, as you said, like your players, the size of your club, the players you have, they weren't like, let's be honest, they weren't even where names, they weren't where you should be. To be fair, the season before you got relegated, you just about scraped out of the relegation zone, didn't you? Finish 17th or something.
So the season we got relegated, we finished 18th. The season before that, we had our best ever season, mate. So we finished 13th. We finished 13th.
Why did I get that wrong then? Why have I got
because
that
no,
wrong?
To be fair, mate, there's so many seasons, but the 2 seasons before, 16-17, we finished 17th.
And this was probably
very lucky.
And this is what I'm saying. I think it was one of them ones where I was like, why are Watford struggling? Like, they're decent. Do you know what I mean? And then you have that good one, and then you get relegated. It was one of them ones where it's like, it's difficult to assess from the outside, because for example, I think you should stay up this season because of the squad you have and blah blah blah, as stuff you've mentioned.
Well, I think that's why they've changed the manager, mate. Because I absolutely agree with you. I think we've got a good enough squad to stay in the Premier League.
Yeah,
and that I genuinely do believe that. You mean, you look at some of the players that we've got at our disposal, mate. Ismail Assar is a Champions League player.
Yeah, easily.
There was no doubt about that, in my opinion. And I think Liverpool will probably make a move for him at some point. Josh King, Emmanuel Dennis, Moussa Sissoko.
Yeah.
You look at then the likes of Francisco Sierralta, who's a centre back, has really grown into the role at Watford. Danny Rose, who is getting his fitness up. So, mate, these players they're Premier League quality for starters, and they're good Premier League players.
Yeah,
I do believe we've got a good enough squad, mate, to stay in this division.
And that's probably why Ranieri's in, isn't it? Because he is proven at the Premier League level. So yeah, I mean that's really cleared it up for me, because, as I said, I was kind of a little bit lost. I didn't really know what was going on with Watford and stuff like that. So that does make a lot of sense. Just now looking at the Ranieri appointment, as you said, 4 points from your next 4 would be a good.
Maybe a great return.
Good return. Yeah. So where are we looking for the end of the season? Is it just stay up and see what you can do next season, or is it let's try and hit that mid-table kind of spot? Do you know what I mean? What is it?
Ideally, I'd love to say that we just get mid-table. It'd be so easy. Just sit on the beach, final day of the season. We're getting mid-table. But look, I think, mate, if you said to me now, Watford 17th, I would absolutely snap your hand off. This is a season where we've just come out of a pandemic season, so ticket sales, particularly for a club like Watford, have not been there.
Yeah.
Revenues dropped massively. If we can build and get the TV money that you get from the Premier League, these are things that clubs like Watford have to think about. If we can make ourselves sustainable, which we have over the past year, and recover from what was a difficult year financially for the football club, like it was really make or break for us last year. If we didn't get promoted, I think we could have been in the Championship for a long time because we would have had to sell all of our best assets, for example, the likes of Sarr, etc. So it's just all about staying up this season, mate. I can't stress that enough. And I think that's why they've just been completely ruthless with it and gone, look, we need to change the manager. We have to stay in the division.
Yeah.
We gave Xisco, this is what they'll be thinking. We gave Xisco a good enough squad to stay in the division. So far, we haven't seen performances that reflect that he will keep us in the division. So we're going to change it.
Yeah.
I think even Ranieri said, I read an interview today he did in the Italian media where he said immediately after the Leeds defeat, he was on the phone with Watford saying, we're going to appoint you. Like, that's how quickly they move, mate. And it's incredible to see, and it's incredible to see how proactive we are. And look, mate, going on to Saturday, how are you feeling for it as a Liverpool fan? Because I've been really impressed with you this year.
As I said, I was a little bit apprehensive of it because we drew to Brentford, drew to City. We should have probably taken 3 points in at least one of those games based on the way the games played out.
Sure.
In terms of the Brentford game, all of their goals were so scrappy and it was very frustrating to watch as a Liverpool fan. I thought we played poorly, but you can play poorly and still defend well, and we didn't. We defended poorly and played poorly. Scored 3 nice goals, but that doesn't matter. The City game, I don't know what happened in the first half. It was probably one of the weirdest first halves of football that you can see from a team such as Liverpool. And then the second half was the complete opposite. We were electric. It looked like the game it should have been for 90 minutes. But yeah, I mean, as I said, based on that, I was apprehensive going into it. And now I'm more apprehensive because the new manager bounce. The last time we were at Vicarage Road.
Are you a kind of fan who do...
The new manager bounce is a thing. Like I think it goes under the radar because it happens so much. Like if Newcastle sack Steve Bruce, whoever comes in is probably going to win the next game. I personally think because there'll just be such a buzz behind the team.
Sure.
The players will be so up for it. Do you know what I mean? And I think it'll be the same with you because a lot of your players will know the last time Liverpool came to Vicarage Road, you absolutely turned us over, and it was one of the worst performances in that season. We won the league.
Mate, that was one of the most unbelievable performances I've ever seen live.
And this is what I'm saying.
Incredible.
If you look at our squad and your squad, 80% of them are the same, right? I was saying 80% of your squad and 80% of my squad, not my squad, Liverpool squad, are the same. Do you know what I mean? They're the same as when they played each other in that season and we got turned over 3-0. So a lot of those people will know that we're potentially not.
But I think that almost works in your favour, mate, because there's an element of you can't rest on your laurels.
Yeah.
The fact that the players like Van Dijk, I know Alisson and Fabinho are doubts, aren't they, for the weekend? But the likes of Van Dijk, Salah, Mane, I mean, the list goes on. Trent, these guys, they won't let that happen again. No. In terms of performance levels, what we can look to exploit is just playing to our strengths, mate. And that is using the likes of Ismaila Sarr, who I don't think any fullback genuinely can keep up with him in a race. I think he's probably up there with Traore for the quickest player in the league. He didn't look like of Dennis. It's just what I'm fascinated to see, mate, is just how we set up against you guys.
I mean,
so difficult to play against. It's so difficult.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, we have looked very good this season, and it has gone under the radar. I mean, we've looked decent in the Champions League, and we've looked decent in the league, and you can't really ask for much more. Do you know what I mean? So it's interesting. So this is, I think it won't be a whitewash. I don't think we're going to turn you over 3-4-0, which we would have done a few weeks ago. I think we'll win, but I think it's going to be really tight. Do you know what I mean? And it's going to be one of these games that, as you said, I think you're going to get a performance out of your players. I think you're going to be really happy with it because, as you said, I think Klopp knows, and I think the players know they can't let what happened last time happen again.
Absolutely, mate.
Especially because
I agree. Yeah.
We're playing Atletico Madrid in the week, and we played Atletico Madrid and you back to back, and we lost both of those games. And Klopp was going to say, we cannot let that happen again, especially because we've already dropped 6 points this season. We've drawn 3 games, so dropped 6 points, which is not really good enough for this stage of the season, I'd say, especially if we want to be keeping up with the Cities and the Chelseas, because City and Chelsea are probably not going to drop much points for the rest of the season now. I'd like to know what you think on that point. But
you know what, mate? I think in terms of if I, from your perspective, I wouldn't panic in terms of the draws because, like, look, if we look in isolation against Chelsea and against Manchester City, and if I said to you, would you take a point against those two at home? Would you have taken a point against?
I'd have taken a point against City. If you told me at the start of the season, point against City, and I'd have wanted to beat Chelsea, because a point against City coming off the back of winning the league, yes. A point against Chelsea, I know they won the Champions League, but I feel they're not as strong as City. So
in terms of Liverpool, like, we're 7 games in, you're on 15 points, you're only 1 point behind Chelsea. You haven't been cut adrift yet, and you've had to play Chelsea and Manchester City at home. So it's not like it's been an easy 7 games either.
No.
The one that I can understand the real frustration with, just from my perspective, is the Brentford one, because there were 3 really sloppy goals to concede, and you scoring 3 goals away from home to not win is that's not acceptable for a club of Liverpool standards and a team of Liverpool's quality as well.
Yeah, we're quite lucky. We're playing United after you. United haven't played any of those top the Chelsea and the Cities that we've named yet. So the United are the team I'm worried about potentially. If they pick up momentum, they're going to start picking up points quite rapidly. But they've got a really tough run of fixtures similar to Watford's. It's actually pretty much mirroring your fixtures. I think they're playing a lot of the top 6 within the next 8 games.
I wonder what the bets are for Watford to get more points out of the next 8 than Man United.
I think they're probably quite high, to be fair.
Mate, it's 5,000 to 1. Leicester winning the league vibes.
No, yeah. Yeah, so there we go. How do you see the game going? Are you going on Saturday? Are you going to be in attendance? Lovely.
Yeah. I'm going with my dad. 12:30 kickoff, which I'm not a massive fan of, to be honest, mate.
That's the other thing that's worrying me.
I just
never back the early kickoff. They are dreadful. I hate them.
Oh, just sluggish, isn't it? Like, I just feel like the good job we got I think we'll have a managerial bounce, but like normally the performances on the 12:30, the first half an hour is just so slow, so lethargic. Everyone's just like waking up. The crowd aren't really involved. Like, I don't know. I always get that impression. But
I hope
in terms of how, sorry, mate.
No, guys, I was gonna say I hope that the thing is Salah has been so on it, and I hope he is on it. Because if he's on it, we're on it. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, mate.
If he's on it,
you win the game.
You're in trouble. Yeah, you're in trouble because he's just been electric this season, and that's my only hope for a 12:30 kickoff. I'm going. You'll know reference. I'm going Lollipop on Friday.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Lollipop. I'm going to get absolutely battered, and I'm going to wake up and really hope Liverpool do not ruin my hangover. So I'm really praying and hoping. You know what I mean?
That's class, mate.
But yeah, So yeah, that's how I'm saying. I'm sorry, I cut you off. Go on.
No. In terms of how I'm saying it, mate, it is as simple as if Liverpool turn up and play to the level that we know they can and know you can, then you'll win the game. There's just no doubt about it. Man for man, you've got the better team. That's just an absolute fact. Where I think Watford could maybe exploit Liverpool is, number one, if you have an off day and don't turn up, and we play to our best, as we saw in that season where we beat you 3-0. Number two is if we make it uncomfortable and make it quite gritty and we stop you from playing the free-flowing football that we know you can play. That's another way. I think, look, it's almost an ideal game for the likes of Troy Deeney, because he used to love these sort of games where it was against the big dog and we really have to rough up the centre-backs. Having said that, though, against Van Dijk, that's near enough impossible.
Yeah.
So, look, mate, the way I'm speaking is very much if, buts and maybes. And that's the fact of how good, that's almost a compliment to Liverpool because of how good you guys are. And it's the same with Man City. It's the same with Chelsea. If you turn up, you win the game. Yeah, for sure. It's a case of whether we can catch you on an off day. And just honestly, mate, if we lost 2-0 and we put in a really good performance, I would walk out of Vicarage Road really happy, because I know that's Liverpool are a better team. But I just expect a performance on Saturday. I really do. And I know that's kind of the bare minimum for me, really, on Saturday.
It's fair enough. I was going to say, I think Liverpool are going to be missing Alisson and Fabinho because they're playing on Thursday night, which is absolutely mental for an international break. But yeah, whatever.
I can imagine Klopp's comments in the post-match is going to be interesting.
He's not going to be happy about that. But yeah, so I think they're going to be a doubt. Yotta's been sent home today with an injury, so he's going to be missing. But I mean, we've still got good players outside of this. I think Kelleher's going under the radar as potentially one of the best second choice keepers in the league. Like, he is very good. Like, he just looks really comfortable. So I'm comfortable with that. It's midfield. We're looking a bit light. Injury to Harvey Elliott's left us a little bit light.
Yeah, a bit light. Yeah, for sure.
And especially with Fabinho missing, Henderson looked a little bit leggy this season as well. So it'd be interesting to see what Klopp does.
Well,
yeah,
so
I think our midfield will be Henderson, Keita, and I think it will be Curtis Jones. But Thiago's meant to be fit, so it could be Thiago. And if it's Thiago, he's a sexy footballer. He is. My dad despises him. My dad despises him because he thinks he slows the game down. He's just he's so slow. Yeah. He's like, oh, he's so slow. And I'm like, the game goes through him. If he's not there, we do not have the ball at this point in time. Do you know what I mean?
I think, honestly, mate, I think it is a game where against Watford will sit back.
It's why we brought him.
These are the sort of games where Thiago, number one, I think has to play. And number two, if he's on it, can dictate the game. It's whether we can, as your dad says, utilise, maybe exploit his lack of athleticism, if I was going to be harsh on him.
Yeah.
Because if we can hit you on the break and exploit that area, then I think that could be quite effective. But ultimately, if he can control the game, then it'll be very difficult for us to get a grip hold because you'll dominate possession, I think.
Yeah. I think we've had a great little chat about Liverpool Watford there, especially Watford. And honestly, it's great. We haven't done this before and probably talked about our team outside the top 6 in such detail. So it's been really good to do that. Let's move on to the rest of the weekend fixtures. I think the next biggest one we should look at is probably Leicester United. We don't usually spend too much time on the other fixtures. We usually pick out a big one and we go for the little ones for a little bit. But Leicester United. United are going to be without Varane and Maguire. For sure. I think that is guaranteed at this point. And yeah, Leicester without a couple of their key players. But yeah, how do you see this one going? Leicester haven't exactly had the best start this season. And neither of United, you could say. They should have probably won every game they've played.
Do you know what? I think it's a case with United where the last 2 games have kind of clouded our judgment that they haven't started well in terms of results, because before that they had won 4 and drawn 1, obviously away at Southampton where they drew. Look, I'm very much of the opinion that United won't win the Premier League under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I think he isn't the top quality of manager that can take them to the next level. And I think it's got to the point, mate, where there are no excuses for him now, really. The only thing that you can put against him is that he doesn't have a world-class number 6, right? But apart from that, mate, genuinely, man for man, one of the best squads in the league. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And he did a brilliant job when he came in. He steadied the ship after Mourinho, and there was the whole Ollie at the wheel talk wasn't there, and everyone was getting really excited about him. But I think it's got to a point where he's taken them as far as he can. And look, I may live to regret those comments, but I genuinely believe that if, let's say, Conte came in to Manchester United, they are title challengers immediately. Whereas I just feel at the minute they're just the standard top 4 team. And that's even Cristiano Ronaldo. I genuinely believe that. I thought his decision last week against Everton, or before the international break, that's felt like a while, before the international break against Everton, absolutely bizarre decision.
Yeah, it was weird, wasn't it?
The rest Ronaldo ahead of an international break.
Yeah, that's what I said as well. Yeah.
Crazy.
Honestly,
I couldn't understand it. And I just think it's decisions like that are an example of, I get he has to manage his minutes, but you don't manage his minutes before an international break.
Totally.
That's what I found bizarre about that one. I was speaking to United fans as well at work. There's similar patterns emerging with his game management as well.
Yeah,
so making substitutions at the wrong time, not being the right substitutions. For example, at Young Boys in the Champions League, away from home, he took off Ronaldo, which was their only outlet, and then played Jesse Lingard as a number 10 on his own.
Yeah,
and he took Bruno off as well, which I kind of understood a little bit more. But it's just examples that are emerging, and that a lot of United fans are saying that the game management aspect of his man management style is just not good enough. And mate, it's not good enough to win a Premier League title. So I think United have got a brilliant squad. I think they've had a manager who's done the best he can to his ability. But I don't think, and obviously this is on record, but I don't think they'll win the league under him, unfortunately.
No, I do want to agree. I don't want to put it on record like you, because I'm a little bit worried they might win the league. But,
well, is that only because you're a Liverpool fan, though? Is that
pretty much, yeah. But no, I do agree with everything you said there. I think my friend Jamie, who's usually on, is a United fan, and he's very much of the results have been fine, but the performances haven't. Very similar to what you're saying about but the results have been good, but the performances haven't. Since the opening day, they haven't really hit that standard, because the opening day they were electric, and I watched that game and went, "Oh my God, Man United have won the league." Do you know what I mean?
But also, yeah, absolutely, mate. And I was, maybe fooled's the wrong word, but I was convinced that they were going to be up there.
Yeah.
And the reason I don't, I mean, look,
They will be up there
in that context, in terms of it was against the Newcastle team where
Leicester, Leeds.
Sorry, against, no, I think the first game was against Newcastle, was it?
Leeds.
Sorry, Leeds.
Ronaldo's
5-1.
Ronaldo's return was Newcastle, wasn't it?
Sorry, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm getting mixed up. In terms of the 5-1 against Leeds, Leeds were incredibly expansive, which suits United's game in terms of hitting teams on the counter-attack. So I think we've got to look at that in context. Then you had Newcastle with the 4-1 win. So they had Southampton away, which they have to be winning. Yeah. Wolves away, which I thought they got lucky because Wolves are brilliant, I thought, on the day.
They really were.
Got a little bit lucky. And then Newcastle at home, of course, there's going to be the bounce of Ronaldo. I get it. He turned up. He was fantastic. But it was against a poor Newcastle team. Let's also be truth about it as well. And West Ham, again, it wasn't a great United performance. And on the one hand, you say, look, that's a sign of a really good team. But at the same time, there's an element of you can have a good performance and still be at 0-0, and you then nick it at the death, and that's a sign of a good team. I don't feel like with United, it's been a consistently good performance over the 90 minutes. It's kind of been moments here and there, and a team relying on moments, in my opinion, won't win the league.
I do agree. I think we've gone off topic a lot there. We need to focus it on this weekend. I mean, obviously, they're all valid points about this weekend, but how are they going to get on against Leicester? Because I don't think Leicester have had a great start to this season. I said to my friends, everyone, I said, one of the things I'm quite happy about this season is I haven't had to worry about Leicester's results, because the last few years I have had to, and I've gone, oh, they're hot on our heels, or they need to lose, because if we win, we overtake them in the league. You know what I mean? So that's been quite nice. Where are we looking at this weekend then? How are we thinking Leicester are going to perform against United that are potentially a bit out of sorts? Where are we thinking?
It's a really difficult one with Leicester, because I think they've got a great squad there. But I can kind of liken it to when we got to the FA Cup final. There was definitely a drop in performances because there was such a peak, and they got to the Europa League, they got to the FA Cup final. Well, they won the FA Cup rather. They got to the FA Cup final, and they won it, and then it's almost like we've got to go again. Yeah. And I think maybe they'll look back in the transfer market and think, did they get the signings that make them kick on again? I don't think Vestergaard's a massive upgrade on what they had before. Personally, I think Daka is a good signing, but again, is it a signing that's taken them to the next level? I'm not too sure. And then you're relying, obviously, on the likes of Maddison, Vardy. Obviously, Fofana sustained a horrible injury in pre-season.
So that was kind of the reason they signed Vestergaard, wasn't it? It was kind of like, Fofana's injured. Who can we get for a decent price that's kind of similar? And that's how I looked at that Vestergaard signing, because I don't think they would have signed him if Fofana hadn't got injured. So
no, exactly. That's the thing, mate. So I do feel sorry for them in that respect, because they've almost had their hand forced because of injuries. I just don't know whether their transfer business has taken them on another level
I do agree.
Such an incredible achievement to win the FA Cup. I think it's very difficult, again, for Rodgers to motivate the players. So, sorry, going off topic here, but going back on to Man United.
I think they're valid points, though. I do agree for this weekend. They're definitely valid points, because, as you said, they haven't been able to kick on this season. And it's one of these games, it's like, get up for it, but how do I get them up for it? Do you know what I mean? I do agree, again, with the transfers in the transfer market and all of that stuff. And again, they hit the Europa League 2 seasons in a row, which if you had said to Leicester fans 2 seasons ago, you're going to hit Europa League back to back, they'd have gone, this is amazing, but they should have been the Champions League both times. And this is where it's very difficult to judge Leicester, because are they a Champions League team or are they a Europa League team? Do you know what I mean? It's very difficult.
I think, and it sounds very simplistic, but the position doesn't lie in terms of, I think if they got in the Champions League, they would have overachieved. Yeah. If you know what I mean. And that's taking nothing away from Leicester, but I think they're a 6th, 5th team. And they've got honestly, I think Rodgers is a brilliant manager. What he's done with Leicester's players, particularly the young players, bringing the likes of, sorry, I forgot the name of the left back, but bringing
Justin.
Him through. Do the likes of Justin at right back. Brilliant player. Fofana's a young player as well. Even in terms of Rodgers, how he's changed James Maddison. I think Harvey Barnes, another one. These are players that he's really taken on to another level. And I think Rodgers is such a good manager. I just don't know what the ceiling is for Leicester, if you know what I mean. I don't know how far they can go. But sorry, mate, to go back onto Leicester United. I
Yeah,
think
it's
this is
fine,
going to be
yeah.
a fascinating one.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating because, as you said, both teams aren't in great form. Particularly Leicester has struggled. There's a lot of scrutiny around Manchester United. I could genuinely see this being like a score draw, like a 2-2.
Yeah, it could be. I can see Leicester. I can see this being a big result for whoever wins it. If
Sure.
if United beat Leicester, it's like, yes, we've beaten Leicester. Kick on from here. They're a decent team. We know they're a decent team, and they are a decent team. They just struggle with results and performances. If Leicester win it, it's like, oh, we've beaten United, one of the big boys. Let's kick on from here. Do you know what I mean? So again, it's I can see it's going to be quite tight. I think neither team want to give too much up, and both want to prove they're good enough to be where they should be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I could see a score draw or a tight 2-1 either way. I could see it going.
That's definitely the pick of the 3:00, isn't it? That one. That's a great game.
The thing I've said to on the pod a lot is whoever United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and City play, I will always back them to win. So I do think United will. If it's going to be a winner, it's going to be United because I think that they'll just have enough because again, it's the squad, it's not the manager. So that's where my head would be at in terms of that. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, I think there's a couple of other games this weekend I would just wanted to touch on. Not too much. I just wanted to mention them based off context of what we talked about. Brentford, Chelsea. I think that's going to be an interesting game. I think from a Liverpool perspective and from a City perspective, it's Brentford have had 2 good results against teams that are considered big teams. Arsenal in the first day of the season and Liverpool. Are they going to do it to everyone? Are they going to hold Chelsea to a draw? Are they going to nick a win? Who knows? That's going to be a really good game. Actually, 5:30 on Saturday is going to be really interesting to watch that. I want to get a few opinions on that from you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, look, mate, in terms of Brentford, I've been so impressed with them since they've come up. I mean, to win 3, draw 3, and lose 1, and the one defeat was against Brighton in a late winner as well from Trossard. They've got a really great team. They've got a fantastic manager in Thomas Frank. I think the combination up top of Mbeumo and Tony works fantastically well. I think they've just made a fantastic start to the season. They're such a good team to watch. And what I love about Brentford is they know what they are and they're playing to their strengths. I think that's such an important thing when you come up from the Championship is to have that identity of the way you play. And it's so clear in terms of the players they've recruited, but also in terms of the way Thomas Frank sets the team up and the players they have at their disposal. The one thing I look at Brentford over the season, I think, if Tony gets injured or Mbeumo gets injured, what will be the impact? And that's when I think we'll find a lot about this Brentford team and a lot about Thomas Frank. At the minute, they've got the new promotion bounce. They put in some fantastic performances. Of course, I thought they were really good against Liverpool, Arsenal on the opening day, Wolves, West Ham as well, some big results there. And then you've got a Chelsea team where, look, they're top of the league with 16 points after 7. I think Thomas Tuchel again has done a brilliant job with that Chelsea team. But I've just got the impression maybe over the last few games that they haven't been firing on all cylinders. They haven't been brilliant. Maybe I'm being a little bit harsh there. But against Manchester City, I felt that City kind of worked them out a little bit.
Yeah,
I think they also caught Chelsea on an off day in that respect. But I felt that Man City got the game plan absolutely bang on in terms of nullifying Jorginho, pressing really high. They weren't really allowing Chelsea to play through them, which is kind of the way you have to play against City, which is very risky, but you have to play through the lines, which Liverpool have done well in the past. So I'm really interested to see what happens with this one. The atmosphere will be brilliant because it is a West London derby as well.
Yeah, it'll be class.
So I don't know. I don't think Brentford will win, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw. And I know that sounds a bit...
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw, like a 1-1.
I don't think I can back Brentford because I think Chelsea are that good. Like, sure, I know I said they're not as good as City, but I think Chelsea are probably one of the best teams in the world. The way Tuchel's got them working, it's just so compact, isn't it? I think it's not far from the Conte Chelsea in terms of they sit back really deep. They're really rigid in defence. They don't let people beat them easily. But it's when they get the ball, it's a lot more attractive than it's previously been. I remember watching them when they beat us at Anfield, and I was like, they just play nice football. We're losing, but I can't help but go, we're losing to a very good team. And it's very frustrating because I don't want to say this about Chelsea. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of where I see it going. I think Chelsea will win. But again, it won't be a big margin. I don't think it'll be.
I've got them down to win the league.
Chelsea.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. I had to go Liverpool. I couldn't go anyone else.
Yeah.
But if I was going to go best the rest, it would be the others. It would be City because I just can't look past City.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm gonna back Chelsea to win it. But narrowly, like 1-0, 2-0 maybe. Lukaku probably to get back on the score sheet. So yeah.
He's in the FPL.
Yeah, he's actually not.
Is it not?
No, I've got Tony. So Tony needs to 2-1. Tony needs to stop.
Yeah.
But no, we're going to go for the last game of the weekend, which is Newcastle versus Spurs. We're only looking at this because of it, and I just want a quick word on it because obviously we talked a lot about Newcastle at the start. Are Newcastle going to win this first game under the Saudi leadership, or is it going to be a bit of a bring back down to reality and you are in a relegation scrap this season?
Do you know what, mate? In terms of obviously the playing staff, they haven't had an impact really on them yet. But what they will have is an impact in terms of the atmosphere in the changing room. So I guess they have actually had an impact on the squad because there will be a renewed sense of optimism at Newcastle, not only in the stands, mate. The atmosphere is going to be
mental.
Unbelievable. And to be honest, if there was a time where Newcastle were going to get their first win, it would be Sunday night, 4:30 against a team which have struggled really this season, particularly after the first 3 games in Spurs. Like, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Spurs are going to go there and get the win. Look, it was a good win for them against Aston Villa. I was really disappointed with their performances against Palace, particularly.
They were so bad against Palace. They were so
really poor
bad
against Palace. But against Chelsea, I thought for the first, and this sounds weird, but I thought for the first half an hour, 40 minutes, they were in the game. And I didn't think they were going to win it, but I thought this was quite a good Tottenham performance. And then they put in one of the worst performances I've ever seen from the Tottenham team against Arsenal. So I've seen a great performance against Man City on the opening day. I've seen the absolute rock bottom from Tottenham against Arsenal. And they've had the character, in fairness, to turn it around against Villa. But I do think if Newcastle can get an early goal with the atmosphere that will be there at St James's Park on Sunday, with the bounce of the new ownership, the renewed sense of optimism that Newcastle are going to be back as one of the big boys, as they should be, because they are one of the biggest clubs in the country.
Yeah,
one of the big boys in England. This could be a really special game if they can execute what Steve Bruce wants to.
I think the biggest thing of it will be is frustrating the Tottenham players that have already been frustrated. For example, not letting Harry Kane have a sniff. If you can keep him out of the game, that's going to be quite interesting. Get at them, really. Get at Emerson Royale if he's playing at right back, because he doesn't look very comfortable when he's there at the moment. Get at Højbjerg because he's got a bit of a hot head, isn't he? Just get at them. Get yourself up for the game and then get Tottenham up for the game and get them 2 up for the game is what I'd say. Just get them really hot-headed and see what you can do, because that is going to be, the crowd's going to be behind you. That's going to get in the Spurs fans' head. So yeah,
it'll be unbelievable.
So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. I'm not actually going to put a prediction on that because again, it could go Spurs come out firing on all cylinders 3-0, 4-0. It could go the other way. Newcastle come out, grab an early goal, rigid, last 20 minutes, grab 2 more. It could be one of them performances.
Could go away. Yeah.
No,
sure.
It's really difficult to call that one. That's the Premier League for the weekend. There's obviously a few more games going on in there. City are playing Burnley. I thought there's no point in looking at that because it is going to be 5-0. Like, there's literally no point in even predicting it. They've won 5-0 the last 4 times they've been.
Sean Dyche class incoming.
There we go. So I didn't think there was any point, but I think the last thing we need to look at this week is the Champions League. The Champions League, there's some big games this
fixtures,
week. Yeah.
Very big.
So we'll just run through a couple of them. Club Brugge versus City. I'm not sure that's like a huge game.
You fancy City, wouldn't you, in that one?
Yeah, you fancy City there. We've got PSG Leipzig. Probably fancy PSG. They haven't exactly lit the world on fire this season, but I
really like the look of that game, though, mate. I think Leipzig have got a fantastic style of play. That will have goals in it. There's absolutely no way that's not going to be like either 4-2 or like 5-3.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it's really good in there.
Scoreline, I think.
But yeah, I do back PSG again. I think they've got. It's similar to United, isn't it? I mean, I like Potter as a manager, but he's really not backing me, proving my case for me. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's got some of the best players in the world at his disposal. It should be 3-0 every game, no matter what. You shouldn't even have to turn up. Do you know what I mean? But he's not.
It's really. It's you know what? It's one of those jobs which probably are harder than it looks from the outside. In terms of like, he's got, as you say, some of the best players, if not the best player, in my opinion, on the planet in Lionel Messi. Neymar are one of the best young players in the world at the minute in Kylian Mbappe. They've got Hakimi, the best right back in the world, or at least not at least top three, isn't he? At least.
Yeah.
Look, Trent's up there. Don't worry, mate. Trent, he's top three. We'll say top three.
Yeah.
Hakimi's top three. We've got I was going to say Robertson. They've got Donnarumma. Sorry, mine went blank there. Marquinhos, Kimpembe. I mean, you then go into the midfield, and then you've got the likes of Wijnaldum's not even getting a game at the minute, but Idrissa Guey's been brilliant so far this season. So look, my point is they've got a fantastic squad, but number one, it's managing the personalities, which is very difficult to do because there's a lot of different personalities. I also think the thing is with Poch, if you cast your mind back to when he was at Spurs, the style of play was very high intensity, high press.
Yeah, it's getting those players to do it, isn't it?
It's that, mate. And also, I don't think they buy into that. Mate, Messi's not going to be pressing. We know that. Mbappe, Neymar, Mbappe probably out of the three is the most likely to. But even then, if he's having to do it, then he'll be thinking, well, the other two have to do it. So it's very difficult to implement that style of play when you've got those sort of big personalities and those incredible players. And I don't know if Pochettino is the man to oversee PSG winning the Champions League because it's make or break for them. Yeah, this is their time. They have to win the Champions League. They have to win it, mate. So, I mean, this is hypothetical and it'd be interesting what the listeners think, but I could see Pochettino leaving at the end of the season.
Oh, for sure.
And I could see Zidane going in there.
The thing is, I think that's what everyone's thinking. If they don't win the Champions League, it's got to be Poch out, Zidane in, because Zidane's such a serial winner of that competition, isn't he? He just knows how to do it. He will win it, and he will win it. Like, there's no doubt. What is it? Messi's on a 3-year contract.
Yes.
Give him 2 years with Zidane, he wins at least the Champions League, probably 2. You know what I mean? It's Zidane is just, there's something about him. He just knows what to do. He just knows how to manage a team, which is always a good thing to do when you're a football manager, I guess. But yeah, I mean, PSG Leipzig is
that'll be a good one.
It's going to be a big. That group is very much a lot of these clubs that don't come rich with European history, but are going to produce a good night. Do you know what I mean? So
sure.
So moves us on to Atletico versus Liverpool. That's probably the biggest game of the week, I'd say. In terms of like 2 heavyweights proper going at it. It's going to be in Madrid. Obviously, as I said, we went there last time and we lost 1-0. We were not very good. Atletico played their very anti-style of football, the very 8 to 10 men behind the ball at all times. It wasn't fun to watch. It wasn't very fun to watch. But again, they haven't really lit the world on fire this season. They've been good in terms of results, but the performances haven't matched. Again, it's a very similar trend that we've seen for a lot of teams this season. I was looking at their results, and it's a lot of them are like 95, 90 plus 5, 90 plus 7, 90 plus 8. I mean, even against Milan, it was a penalty that should never have been a penalty that they got given, and they ended up winning the game. So I've got cautious optimism heading into that one. Unlike the Watford game, I do actually have some optimism going into this. I think, as you said, we are very good, and we know we are. We're going to rotate. Probably going to be Van Dijk and Konate, maybe Van Dijk and Gomez. But it's going to be really interesting to see how we face that challenge that we've previously fallen over that hurdle. Do you know what I mean? For sure. I don't know where you're coming on this. I don't know what your thoughts on Atletico are. What your thoughts on
Well, I mean, to be honest, mate, I have to admit I haven't seen a lot of Atleti this season, so I probably can't comment on them. What I can comment is in terms of Luis Suarez turning up in a big game. And
did it against us in the Champions League before. He's done it against us. He's done it for us. You know what I mean? We know he's class.
I mean, that is the thing, mate. And look, I think the last time he played Liverpool in the Champions League, correct me if I'm wrong, he wasn't at Atleti. He was still at Barca. So was it the Barcelona 4-0 game?
So yeah, it was.
So that is a bit of, he'll have a chip on his shoulder. You know Suarez better than me.
So
he will 100% turn up in either. It will definitely turn up at Anfield.
Yeah. So he scored against us at the Nou Camp and he celebrated, and it was a bit like one of them ones that we've never played him since he left, and it was like, did you need to do that? Do you know what I mean? I know it was 7 years ago, but did you need to give it the big one like you did? I think from then, because he was still probably top 2 9s in the world at the time, him and Lewandowski, because Benzema wasn't really hitting the heights that he is now. I'd have gone him and Lewandowski but I don't think Suarez is there anymore. His legs are going, like in the La Liga, he's fine. But I think coming up against a Van Dijk who is looking really, really fit, and a Joe Gomez or a Matip or a Kanate, that's going to prove some problems for him. But he'll get a lot of service because they know how to give him the ball. And that's what worries me.
It depends how they use him, mate. I think like Suarez knows that in a foot race, Van Dijk will beat him every time.
Yeah.
Whether it's Kanate, even Matip, I think has probably got the legs over Suarez. What Suarez can do though is
It's
if he
tricky,
drops deeper, if he drops deeper and tries to pick up the ball from deep, you know how many times we've seen Suarez pick the ball up from deep?
Yeah, for sure.
A ridiculous 30-yard strike. That's what he's got in the locker. Now, I'm not saying he will do that. Well, my point is that I think Suarez will. So your point about Suarez limitations, I think he'll know that, and he'll almost look to play that to his advantage and go, look, I'm not gonna be touched up with Van Dijk. I'm gonna get away from him and pull him out of position, and then create the space for the likes of Carrera or Lamar in behind to exploit that space.
Yeah.
Whereas if he tried to play in behind, like we know he has done before when he was at Barca, particularly when he was so good at that in Liverpool, it probably won't work as well, because I think that's why he was so good last season against for Atleti and pretty much dragged them to the title, to the La Liga title.
Yeah,
is because he just played to his strengths, and that's what Suarez is so good at.
Yeah, I think that the counteract to that is that Van Dijk is so like positionally aware. Like the amount of times that you go like how has he even known that's going to happen? Do you know what I mean? It's like he's just so good, isn't he? If Suarez is running at him, that's when it's like maybe an issue. But I fancy Van Dijk against 99% of footballers on the planet. Do you know what I mean? If anyone that's running at him, I'm like, he's running at Van Dijk. What's the point? Yeah. Salah, Ronaldo and Messi, the three that I'm worrying. And unfortunately we're playing two of them in the next 2 weeks, so how's that going to go? But no, but you know what I mean? Like I fancy him. If Suarez is coming at him, I know how tricky he is, but he's not Suarez of 2-3 years ago. So it's definitely one of them games. I think we should be winning. I think we should be looking to put a bit of a stamp on it, a bit of a 3-0, go to the Wanda and go, we are here. This is our season again. We're winning something. Do you know what I mean? And that is the perfect game to go and do it at. It's the perfect week actually. It's Watford, Atleti, Man United. It's a perfect week to just go, bang. This is us. We're here. Come and take it from us. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a massive week.
Yeah,
season that. I didn't know you had Man United after us. So
we do. Yeah, so it is the perfect week for us to kind of go. Salah's been saying it recently. He's like, yeah, we're coming for the title. We know we can do it, and this is the week we prove it. Do you know what I mean? Win at Watford, win away at in Madrid, and beat Man United, and it's a very, very good week, and it settles you for the run up to Christmas. But yeah, there's a few more games to go through. Porto, Milan. Not much to say on that really. Both teams decent enough. Both teams, I can see both it going either way. Milan looked very decent for about 10 minutes against us, but for the rest of it, didn't really kick on, I don't think. And that Porto were dreadful. I don't know what happened to them. We must have caught them in that weird spell once a season dreadful. Where they're just all over the place. You know what I mean? It just wasn't ideal from them. Besiktas versus Sporting. I can't really say anything about those teams. I don't really watch them. Ajax versus Dortmund's interesting. That's a proper European tie, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a lovely game, mate. That's one that could be a really good. You know, it'll be one of those games, mate, where you regret not having it on in the background.
Yeah, you know, I think we'll probably end up putting it on. To be fair, because I've got a nice little 2-screen setup, so I'll probably have that on the second one. But yeah,
you know what, mate? I'm a bit of a goal show man.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to do it. Although, like, when your team is on, it's difficult to not just want to watch it, because you want to have that opinion at the end of the game. You want to go to people, yeah, we were decent, or scored some good. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, but yeah, that'll be a good game. Both of them looking pretty decent this season. Haaland, obviously, Haaland, isn't he? He's just outrageously good. Inter Sheriff is an interesting one, because of the way Sheriff have started the Champions League campaign. Two wins. Again, you've got to back Inter, but again, if Sheriff win, you're not going to be surprised, are you?
No, I mean, look, I've been incredibly impressed with Sheriff and what they've done, particularly going away to the Bernabeu. I mean, that is iconic. Like,
did you see the goal?
Oh, mate, unbelievable! Like, so good,
outrageous,
so good,
outrageous.
Literally, like, you know that meme on Soccer Aim where Jamie Carragher is like, "That's obscene, that is." That is literally it. What a finish. But look, I was so impressed with their performance. Look, they caught Real Madrid number one. They did catch Real Madrid off day, and they're catching a poor Real Madrid team. But take nothing away from them. That is the best result in the history of their club.
Yeah.
And that is one of those results where they'll look back on it in like 25 years' time and think, wow, that was the team that beat Real Madrid in their own backyard. Look, Inter have the better team. Inter on the back of a draw and a loss. So
they need to kick on.
And to be honest, mate, they need a complete rebuild. Since Conte left, Lukaku left, Hakimi left, these guys, that needs a rebuild at Inter. But unfortunately, they don't have the finances to do that.
They're doing all right in the league. So you've kind of got to balance it out there. They've potentially not kicked on in the Champions League as much as they should have. I did read a report, and I don't know how legit it was, but apparently the group that just bought Newcastle are looking at Inter Milan. Which would just be outrageous, wouldn't it?
I mean, that would be. But I like in terms of Serie A this season, I don't think Inter will win it. I think it'll probably be. I still have a feeling Roma will be up there come the end of the season, just for that Mourinho factor. But I also think Napoli are the team to watch out for.
Yeah, I think
they're just. I watched actually. Funnily enough, I did watch Napoli Udinese the other night. I thought, you know what, I'll chuck it on BT Sport and give it a watch. Mate, they looked like such a well-oiled machine. Koulibaly at the back. Then you got the likes of Insigne up top. Like, it's a lovely team to watch, mate. So good.
I think Allegri struggled a little bit at Juve at the start of the season, but I think if he gets them clicking, they'll do all right. I'm not sure if they'll win it because I think they're probably a bit too far off the pace. But again, I think we're kind of looking at a new Juve. Do you know what I mean? I think Allegri is a very decent manager, and I think that if they get it clicking, they beat most teams in the league comfortably. Sure. Just because I think Allegri's good. Do you know what I mean? They've never had like outstanding teams. Even the team that reached the Champions League final two times weren't great, was it? They reached it once, didn't they? Oh no, they twice, weren't it? Yeah, twice, and they lost them both. But yeah, it's interesting with Juve and the Serie A in general, to be honest. Shakhtar Real is the next game. Looking at in the Champions League again, not much to say on the rest of these games. We'll just run through them quickly. Barcelona, Kiev, Benfica, Bayern, United, Atalanta. We should touch on. Big week for United in the Champions League. They need to pick up 3 points really to kick on the Champions League group, don't they?
Yeah, they have to beat Atalanta. Like, I wasn't particularly impressed with their performance away at Young Boys. Granted, it is a difficult place to go, particularly with the atmosphere there, mate. I mean, unbelievable atmosphere.
Yeah.
On an Astro pitch. It's difficult. It is difficult, but at the same time, I thought United got it wrong, not only on the pitch, but off it in terms of Oliver. I talked about that earlier on the show. Atalanta, I really like the look of their team there. It's such an exciting team to watch. I haven't watched a lot of them this season, but from what I've seen in the past, it should be a really good game, mate.
For sure.
Come Wednesday evening, I think it could be. I mean, United was a great pass Villarreal it was at the last minute of Ronaldo.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting to see if Atalanta try and do something different. Try and do something similar to Villarreal, because I thought what they did well in that game was they frustrated United. Really well. It was that old man from Watford, Etienne Capoue, who played really well in the middle.
Yeah.
Honestly, mate, he was brilliant, and they just frustrated them all night long. And I think Villarreal should have come away with something, actually. They
really should have
at least get a point.
Yeah, for sure. It's a big week, as I just said. They need to win that because they do need to kick on their Champions League campaign. If they lose it, they're in real danger of slipping out of it. If they win it, they're probably taking control of the group, I think. So it's one of those make or break games in game week 3 for them. Young Boys Villarreal is the other game in that group. Both teams obviously look decent. Could be a good game where that one actually could slip under the radar a little bit. But again, I don't watch enough of these teams to really comment on them. We usually just pick the big games and kind of we're knowledgeable on them enough, so we go with them. Salzburg, Wolfsburg, Lille, Sevilla, Zenit, Juve, and Chelsea, Malmo. Again, Chelsea lost against Juve last time out, so they probably need a win just to get it back on track. They should do really, shouldn't they? Malmo, they should be beating them, shouldn't they?
Yeah, they should. They should be, mate. No, that should.
It's a difficult one to like kind of talk about, because it's like I don't know enough about Malmo, and Chelsea really should be winning it. That's all I can give you. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's just that simple, to be honest, mate. They have to beat Malmo. And I think, to be honest, if they beat Malmo, and obviously if the Juve result goes their way as well, I mean, they're pretty much one step into the knockout round. So, I think it's one of those where you predict a convincing win for Chelsea.
Yeah, for sure. that about wraps up the show. That was a brilliant chat. I think that's been potentially our record longest podcast. It's only 6, but still about an hour and 20 minutes. It's been
Great stuff.
Really good chat. Great to catch up with you. Great to talk to you. Do you want to plug your social media? We don't have many followers. We probably might get a few more listeners because you're on it. Fingers crossed. Send them over our way. But do you want to plug something if you can?
That pleasure. Thank you very much for having me on. Make sure you do subscribe, listen, follow, like, comment, do all of that on the pod. If you want to follow me on socials, it's at Jacob_Culshaw. That's CULSHAW. A lot of people say coleslaw, but it is Culshaw. And if you want to follow, so obviously we touched on Watford in the show, but if you want to follow just some Watford content and kind of get to know Watford a little bit more, it's at WD18 fans. You were mentioned at the top of the show, I run a Watford fan channel called WD18. So if you want to check us out, that'd be much appreciated. And Ewan, absolute legend, mate. Keep up the great work with this, buddy.
Thank you very much, mate.
Really, I listened to the first 5 episodes and, mate, top draw. Really
Thank
good
you
stuff.
very much.
Absolute natural.
Legend. Thank you very much.
On the mic, mate.
As Jacob said, like, comment and subscribe, all of that good stuff. And we will catch you next week. See you later, everybody.